um, oh God, what I pressed. So, Jack, you probably don't need to, but would you like to introduce yourself, your background, where you're at now?
Yeah, I would love to. Hello, I'm Jack. I've got this is a pint of Ribena that I have, but I realised it looks quite a lot like Strongbow dark fruit. So just in case anyone thought that I was just like on it, that's not how this is going to go. That's not the vibe, I don't think. But yeah, I just graduated from Durham University. I mean, my university experience kind of ended on a random Tuesday in March last year, and then here we are. But I started making YouTube videos in my first year at Durham. I filmed my Freshers Week, which is probably like the weirdest thing to do ever. And I remember like really subtly trying to like get my camera out and document it without looking like a weirdo. Because I realized that people probably were like, where is that going? You know. Anyways, I just wanted to share it because I was so nervous about university and I had no idea what to expect. So I just wanted to share it with other people so that if you were, a first generation student and you didn't have parents or friends who had been to uni before, then you could kind of watch those little videos and feel some sort of solidarity and, make it a bit more accessible. So that's me. And now I am, well, in lockdown like everyone else, but sort of hoping to find a full-time job with this degree that I have, which so far isn't going that well, but we move, and that's me.
I remember watching your videos in like my first year of uni because I knew what I went to, and I was like sat in my little room in my single bed, like, yes, he's doing it, I can do it. So we just thought we'd get straight into the discussion. Big questions. As someone who's graduated, got out the other side, we want all your tips and advice. I want to copy everything you did. So how did you keep yourself motivated throughout your studies?
I think that it becomes, for me anyway, it became increasingly easy to motivate myself because it was like the more I went through the different years, the more I could kind of like specialize in what I actually cared about. And I just think there's something really exciting about learning loads about a subject that interests you. I think sometimes it's easy to forget that. And so I was just trying to constantly remind myself, like, this is what I always dreamed of. Like, this is what I worked so hard to study for so that I could be in this place every single day and wake up and study the thing that I really love. And then like, I just found what motivated me was that each lecture that I went to or each book that I read, I knew that I could get like closer to finding what I actually really was passionate about. Because I think I went to uni, so I did an English literature degree. People who watch my channel will know that I might mention that once or twice every minute. But I think I went to uni thinking, well, I like books, I like reading, but I couldn't really hold a conversation about literature in a way that I like knew nuances or I knew what I actually really loved and why. And so as the years went on, I was kind of like, okay, so I like this style of book, but not when it's done like that. And I like this kind of author. And then the more you go through uni, the more you kind of like specialize in what you actually care about, obviously. So I think for me, it was about just like increasingly making it, tailoring the degree to what I really cared about. And that was what kind of motivated me to keep going, knowing that the most exciting thing that I'd ever learned about could be just around the corner. So yeah.
Yeah, self-motivation. How are you motivating yourself in lockdown? Because obviously very repetitive days. How are you finding that? How's your lockdown been?
I mean, it's been interesting. I actually have just had COVID, which is really fun. But we're on the other side now. Anyways, I think that for me, it's been like a case of waking up in the morning, getting dressed, treating it like an actual day, because I think that you sort of just you wake up and then you just look out into this like abyss, into this void of like, okay, it's another day in lockdown. What am I going to do with it? So for me, it's just about like treating it as if I was waking up and doing all of the things I would have done before leaving the house, but just without actually leaving it. Sitting at a desk, rather than like staying in bed the whole day, finding good spots to work in and trying to mix it up a little bit. But I mean, listen, if anyone has any tips for how to be motivated in lockdown, let me know because I need them.
Share them out. We all need them.
Yeah.
So, well, kind of against lockdown and everything that's come with it. But whilst you were at uni, how did you balance revision, social life, being a human being, and everything that comes with that?
Yeah, I think when I was at uni, I went to this party once where someone said to me like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" And it's the classic like, "Yeah, I'm good. How are you?" And then she was like, "No, like, how are you?" It was like that second kind of like, "No, tell me actually how you are." And I've realized the importance of that, of like sometimes actually, a little bit later on, just saying to someone like, "Okay, I know you did the niceties when we first met, and you don't want to bring up like, oh, I'm really traumatized or really, I'm going through it at the moment." When you first see someone, but I think asking that question and really meaning it is so important. But she said, I've seen that you seem really busy and there's like loads of stuff going on, and I just wanted to check if you're actually okay. And she spoke to me about like what she called active relaxation, which was like looking at a slot of time and thinking, for the next 3 hours, I'm just going to binge watch The Queen's Gambit, and that's fine. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it. I'm not going to be thinking the whole time like, oh, my housemate is writing an essay, I should really be doing that, because you are still a human being. And the thing about uni is that you never leave, especially if you live in halls of residence or if you live with uni housemates. It's like you live at uni, and when you come home from the lecture theatre, you're still at uni. And especially now, probably when people are at home in lockdown, like you never really feel like you are leaving the uni environment because you're just constantly a student. But I think don't force yourself, don't punish yourself by thinking, God, I must be working nonstop, like every hour of the day is a working hour. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is just relax, chat to friends, do the things that you love, and that will actually keep you sane.
How have you been relaxing in lockdown? What have you been watching? What have you been doing?
Well, so The Queen's Gambit is a big one. I'm very excited to start watching It's a Sin. Bridgerton, I have indulged in. I did dip my toes into that one. I think that's how I knew I had COVID, because I'd lost all my taste at that point. I was like, oh no, I'm enjoying Bridgerton. I mean, listen, it's like light-heart fun, isn't it? So I think that's good fun. I've been watching so many YouTube videos. There's a lady called Khadija Mubway who is making these amazing video essays on YouTube. They're like half an hour long, and you feel way more intelligent just from watching her content. She's made a lot of videos about like colorism, the Instagram face that we're all starting to get weirdly used to. She also did a video essay about Bridgerton, and she's really awesome. That's a big recommendation for me. You kind of feel like you're learning, even though you're just actually relaxing.
Definitely, I think you need to. So, and how do you keep yourself organized? I think that's quite a big issue for me at the minute, is keeping organization like at the top of my game.
Yeah. The thing is, I would say like I kind of come under the branch of like study tuber. And I think synonymous with that is like organization, productivity, motivation. And it's like, I am not an organized person. Like I am not organized at all. The best thing for me is about how with YouTube, you can only see like this high up, because like down here is just that multitude of sins. Like it's so messy. And I think that kind of sums up like where my my brain is. It's just like, oh my God, there's so many things going on. I got a lot of tabs open up here. So for me, like I have to be quite, I have to go out of my way to be organized. And so I created like a stationery brand with my own like academic planners called Ink Outside the Box, because I was like, I need to create the perfect resource for me to actually be productive and get my life together. I also, one thing that I found really useful is making, instead of just making a to-do list where you just like write down an endless stream of tasks that you need to do, is to like have a to-do list with a hierarchy of priorities. So you have like, at the top, you have things that are urgent. In the middle, you have things that you should get on with, like you should do soon. And then at the bottom, it's like, okay, if I have time, these little tasks are things that I'll slot in as well. And then obviously, as you go on, things kind of move up the list of priorities. So if an essay is due in a month's time, it's like, I'll do that soon. When it's the night before, it's urgent. So for me, it's all about just like treating myself like a child, and forcing myself to be organized.
Is that something you did like all the way throughout your university, or did you just start doing that in like the last couple of
I
years?
think it's like the thing about organization, productivity, motivation is that you can get better at it. Like it's not always innate. It doesn't come to us. In fact, I don't know many people who are naturally incredibly organized people without having to bring in lots of resources and supplies and beautiful stationery to be organized. Yeah, like the stationery is important. Um, so yeah, I think that it's something you can get better at, like, and you learn new techniques. The good thing about like YouTube and the internet is that you can see lots of different people's perspectives and then try some out and realize, okay, that one doesn't really work for me, but this one I can adapt and turn it into something that will really benefit my lifestyle. So I think it's about trying new things and working out what works best for you, and then forcing the organization.
It will happen at one point. It will. Um, I think another big topical question that everyone's been like dealing with is imposter syndrome around university, graduate jobs, anything. How have you ever experienced that? Have you ever dealt with that? How did you get like come across with it?
Yeah, I think the whole way through my degree, I found it really. I just always felt it in the back of my mind every time I walked into a lecture theatre or a seminar. Like, I don't know as much as these people do, and these people deserve to be here more than I did. The results I got in my A levels were a fluke. These people actually knew what they were doing. Do you know what I mean? I think also, if you revise a lot, you can convince yourself that it was just like the revision that you did as opposed to like actual intellect. um, and I remember sitting in so many seminars and being like, I am petrified that I will have to answer a question or that anyone will like even look at me and see that I'm like panicking, you know? Um, and I think it's the most frustrating thing as well when you're kind of like, ooh, I kind of think I'd have an answer, but I don't feel confident enough to say it. And then someone else says what you were thinking and you're like, I should have trusted my gut. I did know. So yeah, I think imposter syndrome for me was such a big one. And throughout my whole degree, I would never like sit next to people in lectures because I was so worried that they would like glance across and see that my notes didn't make any sense or that I was like confused or taking a moment to think. Sometimes you feel like you have to be perfect when actually you're all there to learn. If you knew everything, you would be the one taking that lecture. You would be the one in charge of the seminar, not sitting in the back. So I think, yeah, you deserve to be there. That's what I wish I could tell my previous self, but that's what I would tell anyone else who's feeling the same way. Like, you deserve to be there. Everyone has specific things that they know a lot about or things that they know a really nuanced amount about. And you have your things that they would be completely clueless if it came to that. So trust yourself, trust the process, and don't panic if it feels like everyone seems to know more than you do.
Definitely. Was there ever a point when you realized, oh, I think I have imposter syndrome? Because I remember like last year, my first year, I was feeling like this, but I didn't know that's what it was called.
Yeah.
And once you know what it is, then you can start to deal with it. Like, did that ever come to you?
Yeah, I'd never heard of it until probably like my second year of uni. And then it wasn't even until my third year that I actually realized it was something that I was experiencing, because weirdly, my kind of cohort did a trip. I did a module in like restoration period drama, and we went on a school trip as like 20-year-old adults to a theatre. And we like got a tour of the theatre, and then we had our lectures for the day like in the theatre, and it was really good fun. But I remember thinking about this trip, and I knew it was like obligatory to go on this trip. Like it was not optional. And I was dreading it because I was thinking, this is going to be so embarrassing because everyone is going to have someone to sit next to you on the coach and I don't, because I'm like, do you know what I mean? And that was what I was panicking about. And I was like, oh no, like what am I going to do? And I was thinking, this is crazy that I'm thinking this. And that's when I kind of realized, oh my God, this is imposter syndrome. And then I went on this trip and I sat down on the coach on my own, and I was thinking, oh God, this is so embarrassing. And then someone came and sat next to me, and we kind of got chatting. And they were like, how's your dissertation going? And I was like, oh, the dreaded question. I was like, oh, I'm feeling really clueless. I'm not going to lie. And then she was like, oh, I'm so glad you've said that. I am literally so lost. I've got no idea what I'm doing. I feel so dumb. I feel like I should know so much more. And it was like music to my ears. I was like, oh my God, we actually are all secretly thinking the same thing, but some of us are just too scared to say it out loud and verbalize it. So actually it was really nice to feel that like solidarity just from someone who was sitting next to me on a coach. And that's when I kind of realized, firstly, what I'd been experiencing was imposter syndrome, and then sort of how to get over it, because I was like, we are all in this together, we're all learning, and we're all on our own kind of individual journey. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so helpful when people we just talk, like people need to talk about it. And
Yeah,
like why like YouTube and videos like yourself is like it's so helpful for people to be validated and realize they're not alone. So
that's what the cool thing is about being able to build a community of lovely people online, is that we kind of all bounce off each other. And sometimes it is actually hard to remember that those people are real as well, and that there are people within the same seminar group as you or in the same lecture that are all feeling exactly the same thing. So yeah, don't worry, you're never alone.
and then also to like follow on with that similar sort of circle, have you experienced burnout mentally,
Oh,
physically?
yeah, I find that a lot of pressure that I have or feel comes from myself, and it's internal pressure. And sometimes that's the worst, because there's no way of actually escaping it or taking yourself out of that situation. And then I end up taking way too many things on and saying yes to too many things. And yeah, just completely burning myself out. In terms of getting over it, I think it's just about like resetting, recalibrating, taking some time to, reassess the priorities, what needs to be done, what can I do right now that will solve other issues that I'm facing. But I think it's human. It happens if you're under a lot of stress and pressure, whether that comes from other people or from you. It's a process, and sometimes you will experience burnout, but there's always a way out of it.
Is there anything you wish you could have told like university you when you experience like burnout to like get out of it quicker and like be okay?
I think I would have just told myself, like, it's going to be okay. There will always be a solution to the problem that feels insurmountable now. Like, there will be a way out, and there will be support if you need it, and other people will also understand what you're going through. So if you talk about what you're experiencing with other people, whether that's your housemates or people online or anything like that, there will be other people who completely get it. And yeah, it's normal. It's a very normal thing. So don't panic that you've done something wrong, because you haven't.
Did you also ever experience procrastination? Do you still get that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think now I just procrastinate for a living, because I just film it. So yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, procrastination is not something I've ever been able to tackle. But for me, like, the small wins that I can get is kind of like, there's a web app called Self Control where you can literally like block social media, and I don't know how to undo it once I've done it. So I will literally set it for like, okay, 6 hours, all social media websites are blacklisted, I can't access them at all. Or like turning my phone off, and putting it, I used to go to the library and go and put my phone like in the bookshelf, which is so like stupid, because obviously if someone had gone and found it, they could have just taken it. But I just find like a really obscure book and just wedge it in between. And then I was like, I now have to actually get up and like move across the library in order to check Instagram, and I'm not going to do that. So that actually would stop me from scrolling, and instead actually do the work.
I'd be that person that like gets up on my laptop instead and just sits on my laptop doing it. Just forget.
That's what the self-control app is for, though, because that blocks the social media. So I'm like, I have to actually block it from everything, and then I have no choice.
Yeah, I do what I need to get that desperately.
It is good. It's worth it.
And then I think it's quite a depressing question, really, and I'm really sorry. But how do you deal with rejections from grad schemes? Because I've seen quite a lot on your Twitter.
Yeah, I'm a seasoned pro. I'm actually a veteran of rejection town. It's, yeah, I think it never gets easier, because the feeling of rejection is like one that is visceral, physical, emotional. When we talk about rejection, we talk about it as like a punch in the gut, or that kind of thing, like a stabbing pain. And that's because that is how we experience rejection. Like seeing that word, unfortunately, in that email will never not be heartbreaking. So I think it's about like taking the time to feel those emotions, be a bit gutted, if you found out at 5 p.m. that something that you were really excited about hasn't worked out, take that evening to really feel that emotion. And then the next day you wake up, dust yourself off and move on, it's a process. I actually read, in fact, I might have the book here. I was reading this quote by, it's like story time, by Samuel Johnson. And it says like, it is reasonable to have perfection in our eye that we may always advance toward it, though we know it can never be reached. And I think the idea is that like, you can kind of like, instead of the whole like reach for the stars thing, it's not like, if you reach for the stars, then there'll always be more stars that you can reach, and you'll be always looking out to space and seeing like, oh my god, there's so many other things that I want to achieve and I can't reach them. Whereas like instead, what he argues is that you should think about it as chasing the sun. So like the whole time you're chasing these dreams that you have, and the whole time you're chasing all your ambitions, you're sort of basking in the glory of the sunlight that hits you. So it's about just enjoying the process and feeling like the whole time I'm chasing these ambitions, the excitement of the fact that I could actually achieve it is so much more important than just getting there eventually. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think it's about just like enjoying the process of being ambitious, of getting to experience interviews, getting to experience the application process, the people you meet along the way, the ways that you end up improving yourself because of rejection. And then there's the classic quote of like, rejection is redirection. It will take you somewhere else. And for me, rejection ended up leading to a really happy and enjoyable university experience. So I'm like, I trust in the process.
In that process. Finally, about university, is there anything you wish you could have changed about your experience? Anything in the slightest?
Probably the like final term, because that was like the start of Corona. But aside from that, I think in my first year, I would have said yes to more things and have allowed myself to be a beginner, because there were so many societies where it was like, oh, this is a sport that I've never done, therefore I can't join this society because I'll be bad at it. And actually, the best thing about going to uni is that you're allowed to just be a beginner. You're allowed to not know what you're doing. You can try new things for the first time. And I only really realized that in my second year, I think, that actually, if you want to try a new hobby or a new sport, you can. And it doesn't matter if you're a bit crap. That's actually almost like people will take you under their wing and you have the best people possible to teach you. So yeah, I think I would just tell myself, go for it, get stuck in. I know obviously the 93% Club is all about supporting state school students. And I think that one thing that I realized is that the private school mentality is often, you can be good at everything and you're always encouraged and pushed to do everything that you want. Whereas I always found that at state school, you had your thing and everyone has their one thing that they are good at. And we're almost like compartmentalized and pushed into one, like this person is good at football, this person is academic. And what I realized is that people at private schools often were encouraged to be all of those things at once, shamelessly. And it wasn't always about being the best, it was just about being involved. And I think being around people like that at uni made me realize actually so many people growing up have always been encouraged to just do absolutely everything. And there's actually nothing stopping you just saying yes once you're at uni and you have all those opportunities. And a lot of them are free, they're student-led. Just get involved and do it. And if you're not great at it, it doesn't matter.
Is there any one society you'd recommend at all? Hint, hint.
Well, I quite enjoyed my time in the 93% Club. My uni had a hummus society, which was fantastic fun because we just ate hummus and got drunk and it was great. Yeah, I think like I did so many really fun things. Like we had TEDx Durham University, so I got to be involved with like TED Talks, and I think they were all just opportunities that I had never encountered before. And I don't know if I'll be able to do something like that again. So for me, like even in my final year, I was like, right, I just need to sign up to everything that I've wanted to do and haven't got around to, because I don't know when I'll get the opportunity again.
Last minute panic.
Yeah.
So you went quite nicely into the 93% club. So that's like a good conversation. So basically, why did you become a member of the 93% club? Why are you here?
I when I first heard about the 93% club in Durham, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know about this when I first got here, because it would have, for me, it would have been such an amazing support system. And the things that the 93% club were doing, like so I joined as a college rep, and we went to local state schools and helped them with like university applications. We hosted like LinkedIn evenings. So we had a professional photographer who would come and like take everyone's headshots for LinkedIn, because it's just something that a lot of especially state educated students won't ever have had the opportunity to get a professional headshot taken, because they are expensive. And so I just thought it was an amazing thing to be able to offer that to people, especially for free. And pool resources, because one person just happened to be a photographer and could give up his evening to take all those photos for people, and so it just gave everyone a platform and a community and a place where they could go and get that. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's something I wouldn't change for the world.
Why is social mobility important to you? Why did you feel like you need to be part of this?
I just think that every single person has the potential to do anything. They should have the potential to do anything. But sometimes they don't have the means to get there. And it is, sometimes it does come down to those really small things that you can rectify, like being able to have a professional headshot for your LinkedIn, because when you come to job applications, you will be compared to other people. And so I think that things like that are so important to level out the playing field and make sure that when we all graduate with that degree at the end, yes, the degrees are equal. Like we all got the degree from X university, but what other opportunities did you also have at the same time that helped advance you to be at an actual place where you feel equal to the people you're graduating alongside? It's also about making sure people feel that they can get to university and that they belong there, and that they recognize people who look like them, who sound like them, who come from the same background, from the same economic situation that they do. I think it's really important to be able to recognize yourself in the system. And so if you can look at the 93% Club when you're applying to university and see that there are people who have had the same background as you, who are now living their best life and doing their thing at uni, then I think it's really inspiring and makes you not afraid to dream about being in that position as well. So yeah, for me, I think it's so important to be able to feel like you actually belong.
Yeah, you're state educated and first generation, aren't you?
Yes, yeah.
Did you ever feel like that negatively affected you at Durham or at university in general?
I think that privilege is such a weird one to talk about, because everyone has their own disadvantages, everyone has their own privileges that they've experienced, and some people have way less. So I think it's a tricky one, and you always have to acknowledge the privilege that you have had, and I know that I have. I also know that because I was from the South, I have an accent that people never took the mick out of, and these microaggressions do happen. And I think, yeah, for me, I didn't feel disadvantaged when I was at university. I felt like before, I remember having an interview at Oxford, and I remember having conversations with people there, and they were saying, like, talking about their mock interviews that they'd had. And I remember one person saying, like, oh yeah, I've had about 11 or 12 and most of them have gone well. And I was like, oh my God, this is my mock interview. Like, no one at my college was offering that. Like, that wasn't some, people didn't expect, we weren't in training to go to Oxford, whereas some people there were, like, they'd been training up their whole lives and they knew the right questions to ask. And I was just like, where's the dinner going to be held? Like, you know what I mean? I remember having guinea fowl and being like, what the hell is this? And like Googling it under the table, like, what even is that? So yeah, I think that everyone has experiences where they don't feel like they had an equal step up, and other people have like a ladder, whereas you have like a little footstool. But when I was actually at university, I felt like I kind of could blend in quite well. And yeah, I think like it doesn't have to be like a privilege Olympics, like who has the most or least, but I definitely think it is really important to acknowledge it when it is there.
Yeah, of course. One of the questions in our Instagram was that it's quite a hard one. If you were now you graduated, would you change the education system if it was down to you?
Oh, I'd probably change the education secretary. I don't know. I think, do you know what has kind of frustrated me is that this year, as in 2021, was the perfect opportunity to try out more frequent assessments for people as opposed to exams right at the end of the year, because I know that so many people really struggle with exams. I think that back in September, a decision could have been made to try out a new strategy, especially for A-level students, I think, to do a few more kind of coursework things and assess people over the course of the year, so that if your final result was dramatically different from how you'd been performing over the course of the year, it actually wouldn't affect you as much. And that teachers could use their discretion to be like, that grade that they have come out with does not reflect how hard they worked throughout the 2 years they were studying this A-level. In terms of university, I think just more access events would have been amazing. Like I hadn't seen a university student at my sixth form. Like no university student ever came and did a talk about like how to prepare for uni or how to do your application or anything like that. We kind of were just going at it alone and using the internet and stuff. So I think for me, it would just be about like, I would have really benefited from hearing other people's perspectives. But then that's kind of what led me to doing the YouTube thing. So it's weird.
Yeah, I think you doing YouTube has helped a lot of people, because you were saying that obviously people don't get access, people haven't spoke to a real university student, and your YouTube is helping people do that, because I think I felt it definitely that you were my first experience of like a uni student and what so I think a lot of people in the same boat. So
yeah, I mean, I just felt it was so important to be able to watch. If you can watch someone else enjoying themselves and surviving uni, then you're like, okay, I can do that too. If they can do it, then I can. And just to see someone thriving and having a good time, but also talking about, okay, these sometimes it's hard and I'm stressed about this. It's just like the solidarity, I think, and the things that sometimes people don't really speak about. They're the most important things to raise your voice about.
Yeah, definitely. So that's all like the questions I had, but we did have quite a lot on Instagram, like quick questions, if we can go through them, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
There are some really random ones in there, but they're so good. I love them.
Love it.
So pick them up. Okay, first question. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I think invisibility, because that would just be so much fun, and I'm nosy as hell.
Okay. Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
I believe in people having the right to decide, but for me, it's not coming anywhere near me.
How did it feel publishing your book and your planner?
Publishing the book was such a crazy one, because I had always dreamed of it since I was a little kid. And it was weird because we had like a whole book tour planned out and all of these different things that we were going to do. But then the pandemic sort of just was like, okay, scrap everything. We're not doing any of that now. So it was a weird experience, because it was one that like even the publishers themselves couldn't really prepare me for, because they were like, we're still working out what it's like to publish a book in a pandemic. So I hope that one day I'll be able to do the things that I kind of had imagined would be included in publishing the book. But like the whole experience of getting to speak to, people at a top publishing house, people who have dedicated their lives to that industry, was so fascinating. And I would love to work in the publishing industry, because it's like incredible and so fascinating. Doing the planners was really, really fun. Getting to like have an idea. I feel like I'm in such a lucky position to where I had this idea and I pitched it to my management in like a PowerPoint. So you know how when you're a kid you might make a PowerPoint as to like why I should have a Tamagotchi, or like why we should get a hamster. I basically did that with like why I should start a company. And it had like little animations, and it was like a really neatly put together PowerPoint. And I sent it to my manager. And I was like, hey, thoughts, feelings? Is it a terrible idea? And then he was like, I don't think that's terrible. And then it happened, and it was just like crazy. And so we worked really hard on it. It was like my little baby, and all of these things, like the book as well. It happened. There's so much happens behind the scenes, and then getting to actually share it is like the most exciting thing ever, because you feel like you're sharing it with friends and like with the community that you've kind of built, and you hope that they'll love it. So yeah, it's always so much fun.
Is there any chance you could bring out anything else?
I actually, I had a call this morning where my someone from my management and my team who helped me with Ink Outside the Box had just received some samples of some bits that we have coming out in May, I think, and the 2021 academic planner, which feels absolutely insane to even be thinking about like later on, and like that goes into 2022, and that means we now need to start designing the 2023 planner, and it's just like, oh my god, this is too much for me. There's too much for my brain to even comprehend. So yeah, there's always things going on behind the scenes, which is really good fun.
That's so exciting. If you could go back in time, and would you pick a different degree, or what other degree would you pick?
I don't think so. I think like when I was looking at unis, I looked at history, English, and politics, and went to all the lectures for each one, to see like what they were kind of like. But English was the one that I thought about all the time. So yeah, I don't regret it. And now I basically just read for a living. So worked out.
Worst things to be doing.
Yeah.
Should ketchup be stored in the fridge or the cupboard?
Do you know, this is interesting because so I store it in the cupboard, but one of my friends who I went to uni with, his dad used to work for Heinz. And now listen, this could be a total myth or a lie, but what he said was that the reason they tell you to like store it in the fridge is because you open the fridge so frequently that you're more likely to like take it out, and you like will see it more regularly.
Oh my god.
Don't quote me on that, but that's just what I heard. So I keep it in the cupboard.
You just ignored everything he said.
Yeah, but that's not a hill I would die on. Like, it's not, you know, I don't have a strong opinion about that. It's just a personal preference.
Oh, this may be a hard one. What is your favorite fictional book, if you have one?
My favorite fictional book that I've read in 2021 so far has been The Song of Achilles, which is like beautiful, broke my heart into tiny, tiny pieces. It's like Greek mythology retold, and imagining what Achilles' kind of love life would have been like. And it's just terribly, terribly sad, but in the best possible way. You know, when you're like, this is breaking my heart and I love every second of it. It's that kind of feeling.
Someone actually asked as well, what was your favorite quote from that book?
Oh hell, I have no idea. Do you know what? I'm so bad at memorizing like actual quotes and stuff, but it's a wonderful book.
Ooh. Is there any songwriter or artist who has blown your mind on a literary level?
Oh, I've made a few videos on Harry Styles and the music that has influenced the poetry and the literature that's influenced him. Taylor Swift uses a lot of references. Hosier also has so many like literary references, or references to the Bible, to mythology. I think Hosier's music is awesome. But there's actually there's a podcast called Song Exploder, which is so great because it's like music artists like breaking down how they wrote and produced their songs, and it's such a good listen. Hosier's episode and Lord's episode are so great to listen to.
That someone's actually asked as well, have you got any recommendations for any podcasts?
I've been listening to the Louis Theroux podcast because he's just a legend and like so scatty, and I love it. Because he feels like really composed, but also all over the place at the same time. And I just think that's the vibe that I want to live by too. And what else? I listen to a lot of audiobooks actually. you can get them for free on YouTube, so you don't have to pay for an Audible subscription. Audible is definitely better quality and much easier to control like where you are in the book, but YouTube has so many. So if you are like struggling to get through a book, or if there's one you want to read but haven't, you can't go out and buy it, check if YouTube have the audiobook. Just search like the name of the title and then audiobook, and if there's a 9-hour YouTube video, it's probably that one.
Do you prefer actual physical copies, or do you prefer audiobooks?
A physical copy for sure. I like being able to hold it, and I don't know, this really upsets some people, but I like dog ear the pages. I like writing it. I just like love making a book like mine. It's like kind of sacrilegious, I know, but I think because I really love secondhand books as well. I love getting a book and seeing someone else's notes in it, and the pages that other people folded down. Because I love thinking like, is this a page you were saving? Was that person's favorite line? And then I kind of like add my own bits in. And I just think it's really nice that the book almost holds the reading experience within it. So listen, hate me if you want for folding down the book pages, but I love it.
Oh, next question. If you had to pick a Taylor Swift lyric to describe your life, what would it be and why?
Is there a line about being a hot mess or something? If there's one like that, then that's me.
Ooh, so many questions. What's your favorite hummus flavor?
Caramelized onion, without a doubt.
And what made you first try hummus?
That's a good question. I don't know, but whenever it was, I'm sure it was a mystical experience, and I was like mind blown by how wonderful hummus is.
Do you not remember your first hummus experience?
No, I think it must have taken me to such a state of bliss that like I don't even remember it.
So good. What is your favorite movie?
Either The Truman Show or The Breakfast Club. I think great films, and also like a little bit pretentious, but I think everyone's favorite film should be like a little bit pretentious.
If you could marry any literary character, who would it be and why?
That's a really good question. Emma Woodhouse from Emma by Jane Austen, because she's just like she's so witty and also ridiculous, and imperfect. I mean, she is described at the beginning of the book as being like a terrible person, so maybe I should think about that answer more, but I think she would be good fun.
We're attracted to the chaos.
Yeah, I think I see chaos as almost like a magnet, and I'm just like, that looks really great fun.
How are you doing? That was one of the questions.
Yeah, I'm good. Like, I think I have been thinking a lot about like my YouTube channel and like where I want to take things, because it's such a weird thing graduating when your brand is like study tuber, and I like make a lot of jokes about university being like a substitute for a personality for me, and it's like half a joke, because firstly, when you create a brand around yourself and like you make a channel with a specific niche, you do become really closely attached to it, and so then people seeing you outside of that, when you've left it, it's kind of like a lot of people ask like, so what next, like what are you going to do now? And I'm thinking, I don't know. So I think for me now, it's been about like reassessing my priorities. How can I be excited about making content again? And I've kind of found that speaking about the things that I actually really care about, like books and stuff, that's what really excites me. And, you know, when I first started uploading videos about like books and literature and whatever, they didn't get as many views as the old stuff. Like nothing will ever get as many views as the video about me like getting rejected from Oxford, and I've accepted that now. But it's kind of like when you start making that content, eventually it does attract the people who will watch it. So if anyone watching this is like thinking of making a channel or has their own channel, I think keep trying all the really niche things that you love, and the people who also love it will find their way to you. maybe not straight away, maybe not at first, but eventually they'll find you, and then you end up creating this amazing community of people who are so like-minded and just really kind and lovely, and you have great chats all the time, and there's always someone to speak to, and it's really cool. So yeah, I think my moral of that story is embrace the things that you are obsessed with and that you want to think about and talk about all the time.
What has been the most impactful book in your life?
I think that I think I read Animal Farm in 1984 by George Orwell, like at roughly the same time. As in, like, not at the same time, because that would be dense for like my 15-year-old self, but around the same kind of time period. And I think that those were the two books that made me realize that I really loved reading and books and finding out more about what they were talking about. It's nerdy, but you know, you got to embrace your nerdy side sometimes.
If you could make a documentary about anything, what would it be?
I really love Stacey Dooley and Louis Theroux and people who create documentaries about things that make them uncomfortable. So going to those situations where you are faced with someone who fundamentally disagrees with everything you stand for, and being able to have a chat about it, because it's so rare, and we can find ourselves in echo chambers of people who just agree with us. Like, you know, you sort of craft your social circle. Often you curate that social circle with people that agree with you and that you vibe with and that understand you and have the same priorities. So to be able to like put yourself out there and speak to someone who completely disagrees with you, I think would actually be really interesting. And you can learn something from those people, whether it's what not to be like, or maybe I should think about this a bit more. I think that's really cool. So I really love especially Stacey Dooley, how she just makes people so comfortable straight away. And then they talk about things that they completely disagree about and that are really polarizing, but it's like a civil conversation as opposed to just like, you're the worst, you're the bad guy. Like, everything I'm saying is true, everything you're saying is false. I think you got to give people the chance.
Do you think social mobility should have more awareness raised about it?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that it needs to come from the government, and it doesn't always. And so it's a shame that we sort of have to mobilize ourselves in order to get the representation and the policies that we need and want. But yeah, I think that the more social mobility continues being raised in the rooms where things happen, the better. I think we just need to keep talking about things that make other people uncomfortable, and that the things that are difficult to speak about, they're the most important things that we need to keep bringing up and making changes for. And the 93% Club is a perfect example of like a society set up to rectify an imbalance. And so, yeah, I would, if anyone is going to university or in this chat who isn't a part of the 93% Club, but there is one at your uni, sign up.
What's your favorite book genre?
I think that I've realized recently that what I actually really enjoy is like literary fiction. And so that's kind of like the things that go for like the Man Booker Prize or like that sort of style of fiction. But I really love literature that's from all around the world. So like really diverse stuff. I'm reading at the moment a lot of books. I have one here that are translated from Arabic. So this one's called Gold Dust. And it's all about like life in the desert. And that's not a life that I've ever lived. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, it's so interesting to be able to read those experiences. So yeah, to be able to read books from all around the world, and especially books that are in translation, that's what I'm trying to kind of spend my time doing at the moment.
Has there been any book that you've just not been able to gel with and just had to put down and never picked up again?
Bridgerton, the book, which I've been reading over the last few days, is questionably written and quite problematic. And I would have put it down and stopped if I wasn't making a YouTube video about the book. I'm just plugging my own video there.
That's fine, plug away. Shrek 1 or Shrek 2?
That's like choosing between your children, isn't it? I think Shrek 2 is the ultimate Shrek. but like they are all supreme. That's like, you know, choosing between Destiny's Child, like they're all like Shrek 2 is Beyonce, but like the others are pretty great as well.
I've actually never seen Shrek.
What? Oh my god, well, that's your evening sorted.
No. What is your favorite One Direction song? These hard questions coming at you.
That is serious stuff. You know, I'm a basic bitch, but I love little things. I think that's an absolute tune. And if What Makes You Beautiful begins to play anywhere, I will sing it at the top of my lungs. Also, Olivia, that's a great song. Anyways, me just listing all of them.
Just all the albums.
Yeah.
Ooh. What is your favorite movie adaptation of a book in the last few years?
This is me thinking. You know, I'm going to slightly sidestep around the question, but what I've been watching a lot of recently is books about authors and like books that have been written about the people who wrote the books. I mean, sorry, films that have been written about people who wrote these books. So I watched Kill Your Darlings, which is about Allen Ginsberg, and that was cool. I'd recommend that book. I mean, film. My brain. So that's me like sidestepping the question because I actually don't watch a lot of films, but The Queen's Gambit is adapted from a book, and that was phenomenal. I really enjoyed that. So there's half an answer for you.
That's fine, I'll take it. Just to finish off, as we are nearly at 6 o'clock, just reading a question. Was there any advice you'd give to yourself or to any other first generation students?
I think believe in your source, believe in yourself, and believe in the fact that you can craft a lifestyle that you love. And you may not have people around you who have done it before and can give you those like tips and tricks, but there will always be people online at your uni, your what's the word, like your not colleagues, but like just the people around you, like your people, your flatmates, your course mates. There will be people who are going through the same. Peers, thank you, Zara. That's the word I was looking for. I had a complete mind blank. I had a brain fart. Anyway, like look to your peers, look online. There will be other people who are in the same situation as you, and you can thrive, and there's a place for you. So yeah, don't feel unwelcome just because other people seem to know what they're doing. I promise you, the whole university experience and the whole adulting thing is just pretending you know what you're doing 90% of the time.
Thank you. So it's 6 o'clock, so I think we should finish. Maybe just a last question of, would you recommend the 93% Club?
Nah, I mean, yes, no, I definitely would. Definitely join up. They create so many opportunities which you can get involved in and will help you to advance your career, improve your time at university, meet like-minded people, meet people who have had the same experiences as you or have had experiences that you can learn from. So definitely sign up. I would recommend. That's an endorsement.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. That's 6 o'clock, so we shall finish there. Remember to fill out the survey. Sophie's put that in the chat many times. That would really help us. But apart from that, thank you, Jack, for helping us and doing this event with us. It's been very
Thank you, everyone, for coming. It was so nice to chat.
Also, if you want to start a 93% Club at your university and don't have one, DM our Instagram page at 93% Club. We'll put you in contact with the right people and you can set one up. Also, please take the survey. It's in the chat.
Just follow our Instagram. See everything there. Oh, seeing those numbers drop.
Everyone's like,
everyone.